Hello and welcome to this video on the flavor profile of wine. Wine is a wider beverage, has 4 cardinal flavors like most food, but it neither has the umami flavor nor the same 4 categories. These 4 cardinal flavors being astringent, herbaceous, earthy, and sweet. These are made from a range of chemicals produced during fermentation, as a product of the ingredients used, or through the aging process. Some will use a trifecta of flavors which includes earth, spice, and floral or fruity flavors. No matter how you try to summarize the flavors of your wine, it will always depend on the underlying chemicals and the ratios of these. The core chemicals responsible for the aromas and flavors are esters, Pyrazines, Terpenes, Thiols, Sulfurs, Acetone, acetic acid, Phenols, Geosmin, Rotundone, Lactone, and beta-damasinone. For now, we will focus on everything except phenols and lactones, as they have been previously examined. Esters are responsible for the fruity flavors of wine. This could be hints of berry, banana, or apple. They are commonly found with a greater presence in Chardonnay and Grenache wine. An ester is a chemical compound derived from an acid in which at least one of the hydroxyl groups is replaced by an alkyl group. In wine, this could be from several acids we will discuss later, but it is good to know that it has a relationship with them now. Generally, as a wine ages, the ester concentration will be in flux. It'll shift from the original acid and alcohol then back into an ester. This is one of the major reasons why a wine aroma will change over time. This constant movement from ester back to original form is a process of reaching a degree of equilibrium. Next are pyrazines. This is what will give a wine plant-like smells. It could be grass, bitter chocolate, or even elderflowers. It is more pronounced in a Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. Pyrazine is an interesting aromatic compound, being a heterocyclic. That means it is a ring made of 2 different elements. It is also symmetrical in its appearance and composition. In this case, it is made from nitrogen and carbon. Terpenes are what give wine some of the complexity that sommeliers and wine snobs claim to identify. Terpenes provide anything from sweet floral scents to something like a resinous pine herbaceous smell. Unlike the previous compounds, terpenes does not describe a small group or single compound, rather a family. They are commonly found in greater abundance in Grenache and some region-specific Shiraz wines. Terpenes are one of the volatile compounds and can play a major role in the aroma of a wine. They link the front end of the palate to the back and somewhat homogenize the entirety. They are found in the skin and juice of the grape, and the amount of terpene can vary due to any number of things. The most pertinent being the variety of grape, weather, and soil conditions. Secondary to this are some of the farming and processing techniques used afterwards. There are 4 examples which include geraniol, which gives a rose-like smell, linalool, which gives a lavender-like smell, citronellol, which rather obviously imparts a citrus smell, and a-terpenol, which is harder to describe but found in Pinot Grigio and Semillon wines. Thiols are an organosulfur. They are more like trace concentrations in a full addition or member of the palate. This is because they have a fruity flavour at low concentrations, but create a very undesirable garlic odour if more is present. You will have had the opportunity to smell thiols before if you have ever been in a position to smell leaking or unintended gas, as it is often used as an aromatic indicator of the gas, which is largely otherwise unnoticeable. These can be found in greater abundance in Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Bordeaux Red. A thiol is any organosulfur where the form alkyl or other organic group is coupled with a sulfanyl group. The sulfanyl group itself is what is generally referred to by the term thiol. As with other compounds, although thiol covers a wide range, there is only a small sample, specifically 4, that are pertinent to the desirable or otherwise positive flavors. The pathway to form these aromatic compounds is more or less speculative. It's thought to involve 4 important steps: enzymatic oxidation, metabolic processing of unsaturated fatty acids, conjugation to aldehydes, and a beta lysase cleaving during the alcoholic fermentation. This leads to a free aromatic compound. Then we have the larger group of sulfur or sulfur compounds that can be found in wine but are not part of the thiol description. These will contribute a mineral-like taste or smell. It can cause a chalky or wet wool-like aroma. It is often a product of immature red wines and champagne. In mature wines, or those that lack an overpowering negative effect, it can impart fruity flavors like grapefruit or passion fruit. The molecules themselves can be derived from the grape, in which their non-volatile forms are usually present, glycosylated, which means attached to a sugar, which is then cleaved during fermentation. This can lead to hydrogen sulfide, which imparts an off flavor. The sulfur-containing compounds are especially important in white wine that has been stored in clear bottles. It will undergo a process known as being light struck. This results in the chemicals involved becoming oxidated through a photochemical process. Different wines will have had different effects to them, but overall it's generally considered undesirable. Adding copper during the initial stages of wine production can considerably help in reducing the amount of sulfur that is free, and therefore reduce the problems associated with off flavors or aromas. The addition of copper produces a copper sulfate, which can also help in maintaining the wine's longevity. Acetone is another interesting chemical found in wine due to a high volatility. It contributes to some of the pungent aroma, largely the slightly acidic, briny smells like sauerkraut and pickles. You might also recognize it as the smell of nail polish remover. It is nearly always a flaw. Acetic acid, on the other hand, is not necessarily a flaw when produced as a product of fermentation and not acetobacteria. It is a precursor to acetaldehyde, another desirable product in wine when in moderation. It can impart odors described as overripe apples. It's also sometimes known as the stuck fermentation smell. Acetaldehyde levels will increase with the age of a wine, and this is due to the oxidation of ethanol. Acetaldehyde sits in an important step just before ethanol and acetic acid is produced, and the wine itself, due to the nature of the chemical reaction, will favor it over ethanol in the stored barrel. an interesting addition to this is that adding sulfur dioxide during fermentation can increase the concentration of acetaldehyde due to the effect it has on pH and fermentation temperature. Phenols, as we have previously described, are a vast group of very reactive compounds and are essential to the astringent flavour of wine. They are most pronounced in red wine, but even white wine has some. It contributes to the bacon or clove-like flavour of some Shiraz wines, but largely it gives a sense of astringency. Geosmin is an interesting compound. It is responsible for some of the earthy smells in wine. It contributes heavily to the mushroom and soil aroma. It is an irregular sesquiterpene and is produced from a universal precursor. It's not generally a product of yeast fermentation, rather a number of molds which can be isolated from either cork or from the surface of the grape synthesize this. Rotundone is a kind of terpene that is found in the essential oils of many punchy herbs like black pepper. It gives that essential aroma that we are so used to in pepper, but it's also notably present in Shirazes produced in a cool climate. It is one of the most potent grape-derived flavor compounds. It's not synthesized, it's not a product of fermentation necessarily. Rather, it is one of the few grape flavor compounds found freely in the grape berry. It has no significant precursors, and its impact on the final product is a direct result of when the grapes are harvested and to a certain extent what parts are used and how they are processed. It is found mostly in the grape skin, rather than pulp or seeds, which do contribute to other flavors. Then we have lactones. Lactones occur in anything that has been aged in oak barrels, wine and whiskey being common examples. It is from the cellulose in wood that we get lactones, and these have been described in the aging process video, where we have also described what gives the lactones and vanillin flavors as a product of the cellulose. Simply put, when wine is aged in an oak barrel, a number of chemical reactions occur. One of these contributes lactones, another vanillin, and other flavors. Selection of timber and the species of timber is what affects the nature and degree of flavor imparted. Longevity of storage up to a point will also contribute to this. Beta-damasinone has been described as something that contributes the aromas of honey, fruit, floral, and even stewed apples. It is something that is pronounced in white wine rather than red wine. This owes to how much of it is required to be noticeable. This has been both a wide selection, but only an overview of many wine flavor and aroma compounds. In time, we will explore each in greater detail. This will be useful for you if you wish to increase or improve certain elements we have described, and a few examples have been given. Changing small things like when grapes are harvested, where they are grown, how you process them after the fact, even what parts of the grape you use when you create your initial batch to brew and ferment. These all have an effect. The information contained in this video can to a certain extent be extended to other products. For example, whiskey if you intend to age it, and to some extent beer and cider. Thank you for watching this video. If you have found it interesting or useful, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions below.